I'm going to feel weird talking into a microphone, but apparently we're recording, and it is hard for my voice to make it to a recording if I just talk outside the room. So, how are we doing, everybody? We good? Awesome. I'm so glad that you guys are here. Today, welcome to Crafting Connections. This is a personalized newsletter workshop. Like I mentioned in the pre-class, we are not going to be doing a lot of technology-heavy stuff today. A lot of people know me as he's the tech guy. I may be, but honestly, I'm the systems, models, and marketing guy in a lot of ways. And I've spent a good deal of my life working on marketing. Actually, most of my professional life has involved marketing in some kind of way. So we'll talk about a lot of that today. But for those who don't know me, hi, I am Patrick Mauldin, and I am your Director of Technology and Resources here in the Keller Williams Southeast region. For those who don't know what the heck that actually means, we are the entity that developed the states of Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee. And so we kind of act as there's Keller Williams International, and then the country is broken up into regions. We're one of those regions, and we're one of the few actually privately held regions still within Keller Williams. And so, of course, it was started by Bob Kalinske and Kay Evans, and they did that many, many years ago. I think 1998 well, we just did our 25th anniversary, so I guess it was 2000. For some reason, 98 keeps sticking in my head. Maybe it was 99, and then we did the 25th this year. But all of that is to say, we're the biggest region in Keller Williams. I don't know if you guys know that. We've got 63 market centers as of today. We'll have maybe 70 by the end of next year, and we've got over 100 storefronts. So we have a lot of agents, and we do a lot of business. When I mean like the number 2 region is like less than half of us, which is fascinating to me. So it's an awesome place to be. The what? Greater Pennsylvania, which is a much more population-dense area than we are for sure. But we're not small by any means. I've been in real estate about 12 years, worked in a myriad of different roles in that time, helping agents just like you be able to grow and scale their real estate business using proven systems, models, and tools. I worked for another company before this that may have been balloon-shaped for many years, and then I got recruited over to be the market center administrator of a Keller Williams office and eventually moved into this tech role for the region. So I've helped a lot of people be able to make a lot of money, which is tons of fun. I'm originally from Birmingham, Alabama, so I grew up in Hoover. If anybody knows what the heck Hoover is, that's where I grew up. And now I live in Marietta, East Cobb there in Atlanta with my wife and my 2 daughters. Actually, I always like sharing who they are because it's kind of awesome. So they're the one on the far left. She did not want me to leave today. I come with you, is what she told me. So she's about the cutest kid. That's almost a year old, that picture. She's got this amazing curly hair at this point that's just like all over the place. It's just great. She's awesome and a whole lot of fun. Of course, our big sister's about the funniest, most creative thing I've ever seen. She takes after her dad a little bit of that. And then, of course, me and my wife are super big mega nerds, is what I call us. So if anybody here is a nerd, you're welcome to nerd out with me. And then I'm also a published science fiction writer, and I will tell you more about that in a minute because that actually has to do with part of what we're talking about today. You're like, how does sci-fi have to do with real estate? I'll show you guys. Upcoming classes. If you go to r19zoom.com, this is my regional training calendar. I update this on a regular basis. Currently, it's looking pretty sparse because I'm putting in the events for 2025, and I haven't done very much yet. Had to rebuild a lot of the classes because I wanted to do some new things. We're also going to be doing some in-person hybrid style sessions, and I needed to get some approval on some things before I put some dates down. All of that is to say you can go there. Any of the classes you sign up through R19 Zoom, I'm going to send you a recording the next day unless it's only an in-person class. We are going to be putting any of our agent classes like career visioning or 30-60-90 or like some of the productivity things or like Ops Boss or any of that kind of extra stuff that the region offers as training for you guys will go on that calendar as well. But the ones that are ticketed and are explicitly, this is in a certain location, we won't be recording those. Okay, those are a completely different story. Any classes I host, I'm going to record it and I'm going to send you a recording. I know you'll never watch it, it's fine. But I'm going to send it to you to make you feel better. You won't miss anything. Do y'all know what the command app is? Okay, Y'all know what this is, maybe? Okay. I always just like to make sure that everybody knows. So this is a thing, and you should have it if you don't have it. All right, so what are we going to talk about today? This looks like a lot, and I'm going to tell you it is a lot, and we're not going to cover everything because this is actually a 4-hour workshop. And so we're not going to do 4 hours. We're going to be about an hour and a half, and we'll be out of here. But I'm going to walk you guys through as much as I can of this. I could sip the coffee there. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to learn the basics around what newsletters are, what they aren't, and really what to expect out of them and how you can reuse them. I think there's a lot of misconceptions around newsletters and real estate, and I intend to demystify some of this because I want y'all to actually get something valuable out of it. I don't want this to be another administrative task that you check off that gives you nothing. I either want you to go, this is for me, or I want you to go, this is not for me. Does that make sense? Because I'm very passionate about this particular thing. We'll get more into that. We're going to talk about Timothy today. We don't have any Timothys in the room, do we? Just making sure no one's... Okay, fantastic, okay. Timothy is a fake person. We're going to identify who this person is and why this is important and how that actually matters for your newsletter. We'll talk about, this is the part we're not going to have as much time on, is like newsletter format styles and suggestions. You can do a lot with newsletters, but there's a couple of bottlenecks I feel like most agents and most individuals in any industry actually get challenged with, where they kind of just don't know where to start. And I want you guys to know where to start, and then you can work on your formats later, okay? We're going to talk about the 5 commandments of storytelling. This is one of my favorite things in the world to talk about, and so I may get a little bit excited on that. We're not going to be able to go through and make the newsletter today, so we're going to talk mostly on the top pieces because the rest of it, that's something we would have to actually take some more time. All of this is to say, whatever we build today, whether you use Command or MailChimp or Constant Contact or Emma or some other platform, it all applies. So what you learned today is not command specific, it is marketing specific. Y'all follow me on that? And also it'll help everything else you do. You're going to be able to even make social media content after this much easier based on what we're going to talk about today. But of course, this is one of my mantras that I live by, guys. It's called progress, not perfection. So today, we're just going to focus on progress. I want you to learn 1 or 2 things that you can put into practice immediately. Don't try to do everything at once. In real estate especially, we have shiny new object syndrome. Anybody ever gotten caught into that? Where you're like, ooh, that looks really neat. I got to do that thing right now. It's not always the thing you need to be doing. Just because you can do it doesn't mean that you should do it. I promise you, shiny new object exists in every other industry. Because aside from here during the majority of my time during the week, here I am being the director of technology for the region. I also write novels, and I am independently published, and I put a lot of work into that. And let me tell you, authors do the same thing. They'll be like, oh my gosh, I heard that I need to be like really getting into TikTok. That's going to help sell my books. Oh my gosh, I heard that now I need to really start doing these Facebook ads. Oh my gosh, I feel like I need to go to this one vendor, and they're going to send out this promotion. It's going to send me out to 1 million people. Oh my gosh, it's no different. Okay, they're just the same people going, oh my gosh, I heard that like Zillow's the best way for me to build my business. And like now I need to be doing this like 7-tier like client event. And then Facebook, or rather Google ads are so much better than Facebook. Does any of this sound familiar? Y'all heard all these things? Okay. Let me tell you, their mastermind groups are just as bad as the real estate mastermind groups where the sky is falling every 15 minutes. So if anybody's just curious, this is totally a thing. Find 1 or 2 things today you can put into practice. Another thing that I want to pass along, and it's kind of funny because Keller Williams does a leadership call every Monday for the entire company. And there is a drum that I've been beating for the past few months that they started talking about today, and I was like, I got to it first, okay? So just let it be known. I said this first. It's fine. I heard it from someone else, but I said it first. Just kidding. I have a very strong suspicion we're about to move into a great real estate market. And for 2 reasons. Anybody want to guess what one of those 2 reasons might be? Well, this is Patrick's. This is one of my mantras in life. So it's like chaos is good news because when there's changes, there's opportunity. Anybody want to guess? What 2 things might happen coming up into this next spring that might help home sales? Interest rates is one of them. Okay, so regardless of how you voted, let me be clear on this, because I'm not going to get into politics. We know that it just ends up being a thing. Regardless of how you voted, if you go back and look at the statistical economic data, when we elect a new president, the spring after that, real estate goes up. Doesn't matter who it is. It is completely agnostic to what party goes into power. I'm telling you guys right now, those are two things right there. We've got interest rates will start creeping down. Now, they may not plummet. Anybody who's going around saying, if you have a mortgage broker right now that says, oh yeah, because you know who's in office, it's going to be 3% by next week. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. Go ahead and fire that person and go find a new mortgage partner, okay? That's not true. That is not going to happen. Actually, if it does happen, that probably means we're at war, the entire economy has collapsed, really bad things are going on. We don't want to get to that place again. We saw what it did to prices, right? When it went down that low, prices went through the roof, and now we're all reaping the benefits of that nice low interest rate. Some people are locked in, and it's great, but that's not, most of us are kind of just getting the bad end of this. And so rates are going to go down over time. We're going to see this uptick probably in the spring, and so that means that you guys have a unique opportunity to get your butts in gear so that when your buyers that may have been on the fence because they couldn't afford it, because of this or that, this may actually be their opportunity to buy. Because what happens when the market kicks back up? What is one of the things that may become a future challenge for your buyers? Yep, we're going to be back in multiple offers. Are y'all still seeing multiple offers, or I see? Does it depend on the price point? Okay, yeah, that does seem to be the thing. So all I'm saying with this, my chaos good news thing is that, guys, it's opportunity or obstacle. You guys get to choose. And if you are prepared, then you can show up best for your clients and you can end up taking full advantage of it. We just had another change this past year. That was a big chaotic change in the market, right? Right? We should all know by now, but it's funny. Everybody's kind of stopped talking about it. Sister Burnett, like that whole thing, it's like everybody was blowing up about it. Now everybody's been kind of quiet about it because maybe it hasn't been as bad as we thought it was going to be. And for agents who've been doing their jobs, you just keep doing your jobs. I know listing agents who are actually listing homes for higher than they used to. So let's just say that way. Not that I'm making any suggestions as to what those numbers are, and all commissions are negotiable. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, I think we have two bottlenecks when it comes to adopting platforms. When I mean like platforms for marketing, command, constant contact, follow-up boss, I don't care what it is that you use. And here they are. Number one is a properly segmented database. If you don't have people to talk to and you don't know how to get to them, you got a problem, right? Like it is very challenging. So a properly segmented database is number one. Now, I am of the strong opinion that you don't have to go big to be successful in real estate. I think we get this idea in our head that I need more leads, more leads, more leads, more leads, more leads. And I think what most agents actually mean when they say that is, I want people who are ready, willing, and able to buy right this second. I think that's what they actually are saying. But the reality of it is, if you have 200 to 500 people who know, like, and trust you, and you regularly follow up with them, that will produce more business than most agents need. Okay? I have the data and access to a lot of things, and what I have observed is that going with some of the MREA data too is for about every 12 people you have who know, like, and trust you, and you follow up with them on a regular basis, say using a 36 touch, but that's just a model. You may need to do more touches than that. For about every 12, you're going to get a closed sale. At 500, that's 42 sales a year. Would anybody here feel okay if they had 42 units moved this year or next year? Some of you are nodding yes. Some of you are going, well, I did 42 units in January. Cool. That's great. There's a real estate team that I talk to every once in a while down in Savannah that they sell about, I think, 490 units a year, something like that. So 42 is not much for them. If you're a solo agent, 42, your hair is probably on fire. Okay? Like, let's be honest. So your database doesn't have to be huge. That is one thing I want you guys to take away. It is about the depth of relationships, not the number of relationships. Yes, number is important, but it's about the depth. The second thing that I find is what to say to them. This seems to be a big challenge for people. Do y'all ever have that? You're like, I need to do a newsletter. I need to post something. I need to talk to this person. I don't know what to say. So what do you normally do when you don't know what to say? Nothing. It's true. That's what most of us do. So I want to help you guys solve that just a little bit today. Now, we're going to talk about writing. Am I qualified to talk about writing today? I don't know. I'm not classically trained in this, but I have written about 10 or 12 books, and some of them are doing pretty good on Amazon right now. So I will say at least I've written 2.5 million words worth of books at this point. If anybody else has written more than that, then you are more than welcome to override me or have very strong other opinions on it. But all I'm saying is I've done a lot of writing, and a lot of what I'm talking about today came from the writing side of my life, not just the real estate side. A fascinating thing that's very different about this is people get real excited. They'll be like, oh, you write books? I'm like, yeah. And they'll be like, fantastic. I want to write a book one day because, if I write a book, I can get out of this real estate thing. And I laugh. And they laugh, and then I die a little bit inside because that's not how it works. Best-selling books are about the only ones that make any money. So if you're not a New York Times bestseller, you basically don't make a living at writing. Just go ahead and know that. Okay, if you're not in that top list, you're not unless you have a huge catalog. I know some writers who have 300-400 books in their catalog. Blows my mind that they can write that many novels. Some of them write one a month and have been doing it for like 20 years. Not even joking when I say that. Makes me sick. It takes me 6 to 8 months to write a book, okay? Now write big books. That one's 450 pages. That's about 550 pages. The third book in the series I'm working on right now is probably close to 700 pages. So I write big books. But still, the whole point is, I want to teach you guys a little bit about writing today. And writing and marketing come into place. Nobody in the world asked for these books. Nobody woke up and said, I really wish this guy who also works in real estate would write a hard science fiction book about some kid that gets whisked off into space to go meet aliens, okay? Never happened, okay? But how many people wake up today and go, I really wish I could buy a house? Everyone who doesn't have a house. Even us who do have houses, what do? We go, all right, what am I going to do for my next house? Or if you've got kids like me, you reach that point where you go, oh my God, I need a bigger house. Or if you're past the point of having kids, you go in a very sad way, oh my gosh, why do we have all this space anymore? And so things change, but everybody wants a house. Not everybody wants a book. And so we just have to sell people on us. It's not about the product we're selling. When it comes to books, I'm trying to sell the product. When it comes to this, we're just selling the process, which is our product. So here's the 4 laws of lead gen. I don't know if y'all have ever heard these before. There's a dance that goes to it. I won't embarrass you guys today with that. There's a dance where you build it and you feed it. But you build a database. So you get to know people. You add them to whatever platform you use. I love Command, I'm just saying. You feed it every day. That means adding more information. That means adding more people. That means going deeper in relationships with people. We communicate with them in a systematic way. So smart plans, campaigns, client events. The shorthand here at KW is just put them on a 36 touch. And most people go, well, that sounds like a neat idea. What's a 36 touch? I don't know what it is. And it's just one model. Okay, there's a lot of different ways you can handle your follow-up, but a 36 touch is a great place to start. 36 touch is 26 emails, 4 phone calls, 4 pieces of direct mail, and 2 client events. And those 2 client events you do, if you treat them like a wedding, how you do your communications, save the date, RSVPs, chicken or beef, follow-ups, and all that, you can end up with 15 or 20 touches just off those 2 events, each of those 2 events. Okay, so it's just all about when people think about real estate, they think about you. Okay? Systematic and service the leads. Y'all know how to do that, right? Somebody calls you today and says, hey, I want to list my house, you're good to go. I don't need to teach you guys any of that. So, we're going to talk about some other things. All right. So, newsletters. What do y'all think a newsletter's for? Top of mind. Okay, what did you say, sir? I'm sorry. Did you say? No? Okay, I thought you said something. A touch point, yeah. Anybody else? What's a newsletter for? What should you see in a newsletter? Education, I like that. Entertainment, that is more important than you think. Variety, okay. Ooh, it's got to be about the reader. That's a very important one right there. If you have enough money that you buy houses cash, do you care what interest rates are? You may a little, because it may affect the cost of buying certain things, but for the most part, you don't give a crap, right? That didn't affect you as much as first-time home buyer. First-time home buyer, you barely have enough money to make a down payment, and then all of a sudden you go, oh, my rate's going to be what? Oh, my God. Then you have a little bit of a panic attack, and you go, I can't afford this, because you start looking at the prices of homes. What is an entry-level house, generally speaking, around the country is about $400,000 now. That is sickening, isn't it? My first home I bought, and it was on the lower end of the market, but my first home I bought at 21 was $80,000. Now, that home, funny enough, this whole thing happened in 2008. I don't know if anybody remembers any of that. That home, I ended up having to walk away from because I couldn't afford it anymore. And when it sold, y'all want to guess how much that house sold for? Even less. $19,000. Now, years later, luckily, Alabama had a program for people who had gone through things just like that, and it was some kind of bond money, and 3 years later, I was actually able to buy another house. And I bought one for almost the same exact price, which is funny to me. It was $82,000, and my other one was like $83,000 or something. Like, it was like within just almost nothing. That same house I bought, let's see, it's been 6 years now since I bought that. We still own it. We rent it, and we cash flow on it, but it is worth $215,000. Okay? Great for me. That really sucks, though. Like, let's be honest. Like, that makes absolutely no sense at all. 4% trend line, my rear end. Like, that is way more than that. So newsletters are here to inform. They're here to connect to people, but people have different needs. They have different interests. They have different wants. And so today we're going to talk about identifying your target audience. And I very much heavily borrowed from my writing, and I've only gotten confirmation more and more since I've kind of gone through this process. So has anybody ever heard of Phil Jones? Does this sound familiar? Okay. If you haven't, go pick up his book, Exactly What to Say in Real Estate. It's literally this thick. It's a reference guide. It's a field manual, but go buy it. It has lots of great things you can use in your personal selling when you're connecting with anybody. Great phrases like, this might not be for you, but things like that. People go, well, maybe it is for me. Can you tell me more about it? What is that you're talking about? Another person that you may or may not have heard of is Rory Vaden. Does this name sound familiar to anybody? So Jason Abrams has interviewed him. We've had him at Family Reunion and Mega Camp, or CEO Summit. And he runs a company called Brand Builders. And both Rory and Phil both talk about the fact ad nauseum that if you want to make a lot of money in any industry, you become a specialist, not a generalist. And what they mean by that is that you don't serve everyone, you serve one kind of person. I'm not saying you don't end up serving other people, but you tailor your entire business to help one kind of person. So going back to the whole example of someone who maybe has enough money, they don't have to worry about interest rates. Okay, that's one group of people. If they've got that kind of money, what do you think they might want to do with that money? There you go. They might want to invest, right? So that kind of person may be a great prospect for investment properties. Another segment of people might be going back to the empty nesters. They're not worried about being in the biggest house typically, right? They're worried about right-sizing their particular property so it fits their needs. Now, not saying that they wouldn't get a house that's got a guest room and things like that, because, the kids visit, and they may want to get something on the lake or whatever, up in the mountains. Are there lakes up here? I don't even know. Okay, I was like, I know, I just didn't, I know mountains, yes, we've got mountains, but, lakes. Okay, so, they may want something like that, just have different needs. Someone in my situation, growing family. Now, we're not going to have any more kids. We have 2, and that's enough. It's more than enough. I love my kids. They are, wow, some days, you know? However, I have different needs than an empty nester. My needs and my parents' needs are different. My parents live in a tiny house that is about half the size of this training room. That's their whole house. Bedroom, kitchen, living room, everything. They love it. It's on a lake. And they've got their own little pier and like all of it, okay? It's super quiet. It's very peaceful. We cannot come visit them other than just for like hanging out for the day because there's nowhere for anybody to sleep, okay? So they have different needs. Once we've identified that target audience, it makes it a lot easier for us to create engaging and valuable content for that audience. So I'm going back to entertainment, education, any of these things here. Until we know what matters to them, we can't make any content for that. There was an agent at a market center in Atlanta that spoke at a team meeting that I was at the other day, and she was talking about how like her big specialization is divorces. That's where she specialized her business. Special cases in divorces, right? Certain things come up that if you've never dealt with a divorce transaction, you may not be aware of, and they are not fun, and there's lots of emotions. But if you're a specialist in it, you can help them navigate that, and then you become very valuable to someone going through a very difficult time in their life, just like that. And then also, whatever we create today, don't use it once. You may hear me use the term evergreen. Has anybody ever heard this term before in marketing? If it's evergreen? So just like the trees, just like evergreen trees, you know, they stay green all year long. Evergreen content means it's true today, it's true tomorrow, it's true a year from now, it's true 6 years from now. It's like dumb facts that I throw out in classes, like 100% of human beings like to live in houses. Like that's, I mean, it's true, but like it's evergreen because I don't know, unless they invent something better than living in a house. So you want to reuse this content. So what goes in your newsletter? Guess what? Your newsletter can become your entire fulcrum for your all of your marketing content. So you put together a newsletter that's on a certain topic. Great. You like doing videos? Fantastic. Talk about it on a video. Go on Facebook and go on a rant about it. Make a blog post out of what it is that you created in your newsletter. Put it on your website. Make sure it has some very hyper-local information. So when people Google, they end up on your website. You'll follow where I'm going? Like this is one thing can become everything. And actually, I think I've got a slide specifically on it. Yeah, here we go. Rory Vaden has this thing called the content diamond. And this comes from brand builders, which by the way, I'm not encouraging that anybody spend $1,500 a month to be a brand builder's client. And I'm definitely not getting paid for this, but their classes are fire, okay? I spent 8 hours in a class with them. Someone gave me a free ticket, thank you very much. And we basically for 8 hours did Mad Libs on what we're doing today so I could figure out what my target audience was. Let me tell you, they got granular, like this is where the person went to school. This is how many kids they ended up with. This is what they did before they got into their current industry. When they get upset, this is how they feel. This is the things they believe about themselves. Very detailed, because these things get very important, right? So the idea is basically you're recording a 6-minute video and then you create all your other content around it. Okay, now you don't have to get someone, you can get someone to edit it for you. You don't have to be the person to edit if you're not an editor, but same idea too with newsletters. So when we create content, we want to reuse it, we want to recycle it. So evergreen content we can use later. So if you're talking about like the process of being a buyer, that doesn't really change that much, does it? Like it's kind of the same for the most part. Create some videos and content about that. There you go. And then you can take some of that content, create Facebook posts, TikToks or Reels, blog content, all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying you have to do all these things because, once again, shiny object syndrome. Don't fall to that. We're mainly talking about newsletters today. All right, let's talk about Timothy because that's what this sheet right here is going to be about. So Timothy is a fake person. Timothy doesn't exist, but Timothy should exist. So a few years back, I came across this blog post on a writer group that I'm a part of. And it's a quote. It's actually kind of funny because Rory Vaden, in all of his content for brand builders, repeats the same thing over and over again, and it's kind of stuck with me. And it is that Good writers write to an audience. Great writers write to an individual. And so one of the things that I was kind of struggling with for myself as a writer and an artist is I was going, well, I'm making these books, and I would get worried that this group of people didn't like them, or this group of people didn't like them. But then there'd be these people over here who really did. And maybe I wasn't getting to know these people. I was worried about all this. I was like, well, if I'm going to appeal to these people, and I want to appeal to these people, and then I also want to appeal to these people, it's the wrong approach. All I want to do is appeal to these people. There's more of them out there than you know in any given space. And so I would find that certain things that I put in my stories, one group liked and one didn't. And so I wrote this little note card on my desk. It sits downstairs in my office where I write, and it says books are supposed to be polarizing. Now, I was not talking about politically polarizing or beliefs polarizing. I mean, you love it or you hate it. That's what I would rather create. I would rather create art that is something you love or something you absolutely hate. Like you get a visceral reaction out of it. And so it's the same thing here in a real estate business. You're going to have people out there and be like, I would never work with them. And you could be like, awesome, as long as you're not being unprofessional. That is a completely, if we're talking code of ethics, we're talking being unprofessional, that's one thing. I'm talking about how you show up for them as a client. Or rather, as an agent, how you show up for your client. So Timothy is an avatar, is what they call it, sometimes in marketing. And it's a fictitious character based on a real person or group of people who you are intending to reach. By curating and writing a newsletter targeting a specific person and their needs and interests, like an old friend, drastically increases your chances, not changes. That is a typo, writer. I have a copy editor. It's fine. That they will open and engage with you. So the idea is, if I speak to you, she's more likely to open it. Okay. But if I put something out to everybody, it's a different story. You'll follow where I'm going on that? And a lot of times people go, something must be wrong with command. Nobody opens my emails. I'm like, cool. What's your email subject? Homes in your area. Nope. Try again. What's your content look like? Well, it just shows like the past 5 houses that I sold. Okay. Why do they care? Why do they care? But if you're basically like, what's up, Jennifer? How you doing today? How's it going? And then you open that conversation, that's different, okay? That's why you approach it like they are an old friend. That's the way that I look at this, okay? But always ask what's in it for me. So we got to know our audience. So we're going to do a little bit of work. Grab your handout. And you're going to need a pen unless you want to sign in blood, unless you want to, work in blood. You can get a knife out, that's fine too. Not really. Please do not spread any bloodborne pathogens in this room. Thank you very much. What? Yeah, no, please do not. Please do not. Okay, so here we are. Timothy. And what we're going to do is we're going to answer these questions as best as possible. It's a few pages in. It's going to look like this on the front of it. Now, this handout has a bunch of other stuff in here too. It's just it's a grab bag of Patrick does classes, okay? Just put that out there. And so what we're going to do is we're going to answer these. And what I want you to target is think about the person think about the type of client or a specific person that may represent them who you serve the most or would like to serve the most. 'Cause sometimes it's aspirational, sometimes it's actual, okay? And what phase of life are they in? What kind of values do they hold important? And these values aren't necessarily like, are they a this or are they a that? It's not that. Like if you actually, has anybody ever done a values exercise before where it has things like honesty, beauty, like integrity, like those kind of things is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about like what particular religious group they follow or any of that kind of stuff. What does their family look like? What do they do for a living? What sort of interests do they have? What would be a small gift someone like them might appreciate? There's something on here, hang on a second, that people get confused on. Yes, what would their also boughts be? That's a confusing question that most people go, what the heck is he talking about? You ever go to Amazon, you scroll down to the bottom, people who bought this also bought, okay? That kind of thing. Like what kind of things might they buy or be interested in or that kind of stuff, okay? What nostalgic themes might they appreciate, et cetera, et cetera. Y'all follow where we're going on this? And we'll give ourselves, let's see. We're going to give ourselves 20 minutes to go through this. So we're going to have some time. And feel free to ask questions. Okay? Does that sound good? Do we know the assignment? Questions? Comments? Suggestions? Okay. So pick one for the exercise and then see how that you could always run it again as someone else. One thing I want to remind you guys, and this is another, I know I keep quoting Rory Vaden. I guess I'll have a career at Brand Builders if KW didn't work out. It's fine. I already know their content. But it is that you are most uniquely positioned to help the person you once were. Okay? So if there is something, if you're struggling and you go, you know what, I've been there. If you say I've been there, then that might be the kind of people you need to serve. As long as you can make a living serving those people, they're the people you should serve. Now, I'm not telling you who to serve. I'm just saying that's a great place to start. Okay? So we'll put 20 minutes on the clock. Hey, Siri, set a timer for 20 minutes. Oh, and it put it for 10 minutes. Why did it do 10 minutes? So weird. Awesome. There we go. Let me get back on the microphone for the people on the recording. Let me ask if anybody else had this experience. Did you feel like the person you started writing down very much resembled you? Okay. This is not an uncommon thing. Because again, going back to you're uniquely positioned to help the person who you once were, there's probably a reason why you've gravitated to certain groups of people and you feel comfortable working with certain groups of people, because guess what? You are that group of people. Not to say that you always are, but a lot of times you are. Any other ahas? Did you find any of the questions difficult to answer? Yeah? On humor? Okay. Tell me more about that. Yeah. Yep. That's okay. That's okay. When we talk about entertaining, I think it's important to, me personally, part of my style, presenting, all that kind of stuff, I mean, it's like humor's part of it. And usually it's self-effacing. I like to make dad jokes. Like, does anybody know a joke about sodium? Nah. It's really dumb. I've got better dad jokes. I just can't think of any right off the top of my head right now. But the whole thing is like everybody has their own way that they approach that. And humor, I think, is an amazing way to break down walls. It doesn't have to just be something ridiculous and off color. And actually in real estate, we definitely need to make sure we're professional, even if that person may resonate with our very dark or messed up gallows humor. Yeah, you know. Like, don't let your boots click while you're hanging, like stuff like that. That's where gallows humor comes from, if anybody didn't know. You know, it's like the idea while you're dying. Anyway, people in the medical profession love gallows humor, I'm just saying. But that's because they see death all day, and so they have to kind of make light of it because guess what? Death sucks. It's not a fun part of life. Any other ahas? Anything that you saw and you were like, man, I didn't think about this before, but this is something I could use. How about we frame it that way? Mm-hmm. How can you connect more with the people that you serve? And so all of these questions feel like really good, conversations to have with them and just, Absolutely. Did y'all find a name for anybody? Because I think the naming part is important. Did you name your person? Cheryl? There you go. Cheryl. So when you're working on your newsletter, you're like, well, would Cheryl open this? I don't know. Would Cheryl like this? What would Cheryl think about this? Would she think, would Cheryl get mad at me if I put this in there or think this was dumb? Like it becomes a lot easier when you have literally a name. I dug up mine, not in this. I wrote these, but it's funny. I wrote these questions specifically for real estate before I did the brand builders thing, but I pulled out my brand builders thing. I wish I could share this, but I'm gonna read. I mean, I don't know if anybody wants to magically steal my questions as we go. Any of you guys ever do Mad Libs? Do y'all know what those are? Okay, Mad Libs were one of my most fun things as a kid. It's like where you press the mute button. It's these little books they'd be on a certain theme, and essentially they would have missing words. And it would be like, put an adjective here, put a noun here. And you'd end up doing funny things like, Patrick went to the pizza place where his friend farted on his head. That's what we did as kids. Like, we thought that was funny because we would change out the words, right? Instead of like where he ate a pizza, you would change those words because it gave you little spots. So you filled in the spots. They were called Mad Libs. They were really funny. They have all kinds of different ones. But they did this exercise with this called the perfect avatar, and it was like a Mad Libs exercise. So I'm going to give a fake name to my person. When I was taking this class, I pretty well identified how I show up for leaders and agents within Keller Williams. So I decided to spend my day working on my writing. And so I'm going to show you all how specific I am about who I write books to, because I write it to a person. B, like the letter B. I'm not saying this person's name on purpose. B is in her 30s. She is a realtor at KW, and earns about X number of dollars per year. I have a number in here she graduated from. I didn't have her school, but with a blank degree in blank field of study. I didn't have those, but those would be useful. She now lives in Johnson City, Tennessee, where she is married and has 2 kids ranging from age 5 to 10. She lives in a single-family home in a rural/lightly urban area. She is in good shape. Her hobbies include gaming, reading, going to cons, and vacation with her family. Her favorite thing to do is blank. I didn't have that, so I couldn't fill that one in. B's level of drive and ambition is growing, and on any given day, the emotions she feels are blessed, overwhelmed, curious, and a word that Patrick cannot read because my handwriting is horrible. B sees herself as important to those close to her. Her big dream is to care for her family, but currently B is struggling with confidence, focus, and her place in the world, which is causing her to feel alone, rejected, overwhelmed, and unsure. And that's when Patrick shows up and everything starts to change. You'll see where I'm going on that? One of the things that I thought was really neat about Brand Builder's approach to this is that it's not just about getting to know the person, it's about really getting to know their problems. Because what do we do in real estate? Solve the problems. Okay, so y'all know a little bit about my life at this point. If you've been paying attention, what kind of problems do you think I need solving? And they're not unusual. They're really not. Time, that's definitely part of it. I have kids, though. So I have a 2-year-old and an 11-year-old. What kind of problems y'all think I have to solve? So this Saturday was the first over 8 hours of sleep I've had in 3 months. So yes, that is definitely part of it. Sleep. Conflict. Yeah. I do okay with that. I'll tell you something that for me that would be big is things to do on the weekend that are fun, that are outside the house, that cost less than $100 for the whole family. Because let me tell you, I live in Atlanta. We have a glut of things to do. Nothing is cheap at all. If we go to something like Fernbank, love it, it's great and everything, it's like a $200 trip for the family, okay? By the time you get tickets and everybody eats lunch, and I don't want to spend $200 on a Saturday if I can not, okay? I might have it, but I don't want to spend it. I'm cheap. What can we say? What kind of problems do they have? That's what we're solving for. And really, ultimately, if you can get down to the one problem that they're solving, and you can get that problem down to one word, you've won the branding game. So when y'all think of, what one word comes to mind when you think of Dave Ramsey? He's a great example of this. Okay. Freedom was actually his original one, but you know what most people are surveyed saying? Debt. What does he solve? That's his whole thing, right? That's his whole platform. Now, it comes from financial. It's being free of your financial problems through eliminating your debt. Like, he's got this long thing, but really, it's debt. Now, I didn't get this one, so if y'all don't get this one, it's fine. Do you know what Tony Robbins' word is? What is he solving for? Well, it's got to be a negative. We can't use a positive. It's got to be a negative. No, and I didn't get this one either. So it's actually pain. So everything that he teaches, everything on his platform is to help you take away pain. Okay? Now, I don't know how you sum up the fact that I need things to do with my kids on the weekend for under $100, but if you can put that into one word, then that's what you're solving for me. Okay? So you have to figure out what you're really solving for people and help them solve that. Now, on the time thing, time would be a part of it. So if I'm going through a real estate transaction, anything that agent can do to help me do less is probably a good thing. I need to be able to trust them, and I'm going to be busy handling everything else with the family, with the kids, coordinating everything. And I'm the driver in the family. I don't know if anybody else has felt that in their family. Like, they're definitely the dominant person that gets things done. That's me. It doesn't happen if I don't do it, kind of thing. I need help. I need a partner. Okay? So just think about that. What are you solving for them? Actually, going back on the Timothy thing. We won't get into that. That's fine. Okay, so do y'all have a better idea of who you serve at this point? Now, in this list, too, of the things that you've written, you may also have, like, some great marketing stuff. Like, I think I put, like, sports teams or something in here. I may have put interests. Like, I don't know if football's big in Tennessee or not. But, I'm from Alabama, and it's kind of the, second most popular religion. And so that was a joke, by the way. It was a dad joke, if anybody didn't catch that. Alabama-Auburn football is literally like life to people. Like, they bow down at the altar of SEC every year. And so all of this is to say, now that you have a better idea of these people, you can put some things in there with what you're marketing, with how you're structuring, and just act like you're talking to Cheryl when you're writing an email. Don't act like you're talking to everybody. Another thing is, and this is a newsletter hack, this is a marketing hack in general. Command allows you to do it. Other platforms do. There are these things called merge fields. You all ever heard of these before? So merge fields, it's like a little token that you put in your email that replaces somebody's name when you send it to it. So it's saying Patrick, blah, 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 blah. Colt, blah, 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 blah. So it's addressing them personally. When you put merge fields in there with first name, your response rates increase by 40%. Okay? And that's pretty big in my opinion. Now that we have an idea what's in it for them, I want to show you guys a little bit about storytelling, because this is something I'm passionate about, and your head may hurt a little bit on this. But I think that this works in a real estate transaction as well. There's a model that they talk about in MAPS coaching that's called the 4 quadrants. I don't know if anybody's ever walked you guys through it before, but they do it in bold. So has anybody taken bold? Okay. Take bold. I'm going to tell you, it saved my life. I literally will die on that hill saying it saved my life. That's a mixed metaphor. It's fine. And so the idea is, if somebody says, hey, I want to buy a house, you're like, great. You have to cast the vision of them being able to move if their motivation is not strong enough, okay? You have to show them that by doing the thing that they said that they wanted to do, they've already expressed that desire, is going to make their life better. If they can't see their life being better, it doesn't work. Great example of this. My best friend since forever, his name's Dave. He lives in Huntsville, Alabama. I've known him since I was 16. We used to see each other at concerts and stuff. We still are friends. And he just put an offer on a house a couple weeks ago and backed out halfway through. And I was like, why'd you back out? You talked about this like this was the house for you. His first mistake, he didn't work with a KW agent, I'm just going to say. The things that he said, well, I trust my agent. I was like, what are they talking about? I'm like, how long has this person been real? Anyway, I digress on that. I'm not picking on anyone. I just think we have the best training, okay? That's just my opinion. So he puts an offer on this house, and he's going to move, and he gets spooked on the interest rate. Although the house is bigger, he has a growing family. He's got 3 kids and a wife, 2 dogs. Like, they got a lot going on at the house. And he basically got gun shy on the price. And I said, can you not afford it? He's like, no, I can totally afford it. And I said, well, why were you afraid? He's like, I don't know, man, just the interest rate number bothered me. I was like, not the monthly payment? He's like, no, the monthly payment didn't bother me. I could pay that. So in my opinion, and I wasn't going to pick at it because we're friends and I don't want to hurt our relationship, but in my opinion, the agent probably didn't walk him through something like the 4 quadrants. And that's where you say, you start off with a present perfect. That is to say, you are where you are right now, everything's fine. And then you go into a positive present. I'm sorry, I got it wrong. Positive present. Things are good in the current now. Then you say a negative present. So time continues to go by. You're going to continue to have the same challenges you have today. Okay, house is too small. You're having issues. It's great that your payment's lower, but like there's a lot of pain points in your family structure because of everybody being under this one roof. Then you go to negative future. So 6 months from now, you're still living in the same house, still dealing with all the same challenges. How does that make you feel? Okay, you're walking them through this emotionally. Then the final stage of that is the positive future to say, but if we go ahead and go, you know what, you showed an interest in this. These are all the things that you said that you wanted. We checked off every single one of them. So what does it look like a month from now if you're sitting on your back porch drinking a cup of coffee, your kids have the space that they need, your wife has the kitchen she needs, like whatever those items are that you know what they are, and you guys are just enjoying it. And you cast that vision. You'll follow where I'm going in that? That is storytelling in its fundamental form. And they call it the 4 quadrants in KW. Is the pain versus pleasure? Absolutely. We're motivated by 2 things, guys, pain or pleasure. Okay? Now, one is not better than the other. They're just different. If an axe murderer is following you, you're definitely running out of pain because you don't want to get chopped up, right? Okay, that is not pleasure by any means. You want to keep on living, but that is definitely pain. But there are times we go, I really want that. I really desire that, and you will run towards it. But a lot of times in life, what do? Run from pain, don't we? I don't want that to happen. And so, but the Story Grid. Story Grid is a book that I read a few years ago that changed the way that I communicate, changed the way I work with writing. And if anybody's ever interested in writing, I would recommend this as one of your first books to actually read. It's about editing. And actually, the book they use as a case study is The Silence of the Lambs. We are not going to talk about The Silence of the Lambs today, but now that I have gone through this book, I see that it's actually one of the most brilliantly written stories in history, if you enjoyed the content or not. Doesn't mean the story was written for you. It just means it was a very well-written story. And there were 5 really big takeaways I took from it, and they were called the 5 Commandments of Storytelling. This works the same for your clients, and even the same for the stories that you write. And at the end of the day, have y'all ever heard of the hero's journey? Does this sound kind of like people offhanded hear it sometimes? Anybody's heard Homer's Odyssey? I'm sure at some point you studied it in school for literature or whatever. Homer's Odyssey was basically the first of the hero's journey. And the reason it's been so popular again and again and again is people see themselves in this space and they see themselves as the hero going through this particular story. It has been done over in every culture in the world. There's different variations on it, but it's basically a same basic structure. And so every story has to have 5 elements for it to work, or else it doesn't. You ever met someone or watched a movie or something, you're just like, well, that fell flat. And like, it just didn't, like something wasn't right. Like the pieces are there, but they just didn't seem to work. It all comes down to this. Every story has to start with an inciting incident. Why did the story start? It's raining outside and the guy gets into a car wreck. The killer comes in and shoots somebody in the chest. Whatever it may be. okay? Every episode of Law and Order is a great example of this. Anybody ever watched any Law and Order? Like the beginning of it, it shows, if you're watching SVU, they go with one format, but if you're watching regular Law and Order, it's another one, and they show the crime that happens at the beginning. Here's the crime, okay? That's the inciting incident. Why are the police going to go investigate this thing? Most people, for you guys, it's you got into real estate. You had an inciting incident for getting in here. I wanted to get out of X industry. I wanted to get out of printing. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know what you did in between. It may have been the same thing or it could have been something else. But you wanted to get out of something else. You decided to get into real estate. That was either by cause or coincidence. You made the choice or life showed up. I ended up in real estate by accident. I don't know if anybody else did. I did totally by accident. The other brokerage needed a graphic designer. That's how I ended up in real estate. That makes a lot of sense, right? Second, progressive complications. Things got to get worse before they get better. That's what makes an exciting story. Conflict. Doesn't always have to be fighting and death and all those sorts of things. It just has to be conflict. So 2 different belief systems, things to overcome, whatever it may be. So, exciting incident, progressive complications. A moment of crisis. This is something that, crisis is a word that is misunderstood. People think crisis is always bad. But actually, crisis, I believe, if I'm quoting this correctly, comes from a Greek word that basically means a fork in the road. Okay? It's 2 choices, multiple choices, and they can either be what is called the best of bad, which is like every election ever, or the irrevocable good, which is like, I've got 2 really awesome people I've fallen in love with, and I got to figure out which one I'm going to marry. Okay? Because if I choose one, I can't be with the other. That's just kind of that idea with the irrevocable good. They're both good choices, but you got to make it. Climax is the moment the protagonist, you, the character of the story, whatever it may be, acts on their choice. So what do they do? And then the resolution is what it all means. So this actually allows the reader, the viewer, whoever to metabolize the story. Why did we go on this journey and what was the freaking point? Okay? Have you ever watched something and you get to the end and you're like, well, that was a dumb ending? Because it didn't give you catharsis, is the fancy word for it. It did not give you that sense of completion in the end. So even when we write a newsletter, it doesn't have to just be, here's the properties I sold, here's some recommendations of things to do. It can totally be like, oh my gosh, girl, let me tell you, last weekend the craziest thing happened and I got to walk you through it. That is literally what your newsletter could be, if that's your audience. Okay? You can let your personality come out in it, okay? There's a thing called the trust triangle. It actually goes back to Plato, I believe, and it's the authenticity, hang on, I always get this messed up. Intellect, authenticity, and empathy. And so anything you ever do should have that intellect, which is what you know, and they believe that you know what you know. Authenticity, be your real self. If you read your newsletter and like, this isn't me, go make another newsletter. It needs to be you, okay? That's you being you, your authentic self, showing up for that person you once were, like that is a big deal. And then of course, empathy. I see you as a human being, I'm a human being, we can both be human beings here. I'm not gonna treat you like a jerk or anything like that. So, I said intellect, it's logic. I'm sorry, I messed up, it's logic, thank you. Thank you, brain. Yes, logic. I didn't have this one in my notes. So logic, authenticity, and empathy. And I always want to say logos. That's the actual Greek term, but it's something I always mess up in that. So these are the 5 commandments. So for example, I'll tell you someone's real estate career really quick with these 5 commandments. I'm going to do a short story off the cuff here. Somebody gets into real estate. Let's say they were a teacher during COVID. They got tired of all the mess that they were dealing with. I don't know if anybody remembers how tough it was for teachers, right? So they said, you know what? I'm done with being an educator. I'm passionate about this. I love it. Is that you? Okay. Right before. I'm tired of all the changes they're having to make. We're having to go through some really difficult times. We're doing what we're being asked to do, but parents are coming in here pretty much wanting to cut our throats because we're doing what the school board is requiring us to do. Okay, this was an actual thing, if anybody remembers that. It was very hard for a lot of educators. And they said, I'm gonna go get my real estate license. A friend of mine did it, makes a bunch of money at it, and you know what? I'm ready for my next. If not, maybe I'll go back to teaching some of the year, but I'll at least sell real estate in the summer. Okay? I know this is very specific. I know like 12 of these people right off the top of my head. There you go. So, progressive complication. I got into real estate. You know what? Things were harder than I thought. Everybody keeps talking about how easy it is to go make it sell. I've been watching HGTV forever, and it is not real. So I go to this class, and they tell me I got to pick up the phone and talk to people and connect with people, and I'm not sure if I can do it because I've never been that kind of outgoing person. Maybe this isn't the industry for me, and I've faced some challenges in that. So I have a choice. I realize that I have a choice before me. I can either buckle down, really figure this out, and be uncomfortable until I'm comfortable, because I've seen people do it, or I could quit, and I could regret it for the rest of my life. Because if I quit, I'm going to always wonder what would have happened if I had just really done this and stuck with it. I decided to stick with it. And it wasn't easy, and it was a very difficult road, and I faced a lot of different challenges. And it was one of the hardest seasons of my life. But when I got on the other side of that chaos, what I discovered, there was actually a better life for me. I had never made more than, I'll just put a number out here, $50,000 a year as a teacher. But now, in my second year of real estate, I've made $600,000 in real estate. And I could have never imagined a life like this. I have rental properties now. Our house is paid off. My kids are getting to go to college without any loans, and every day I wake up, I just thank God that I got into this industry. Is that a compelling story? Okay, it was a fiction, but it had all the pieces. You believed every second of it. Here's the truth. I know people who've lived that. Maybe not those exact things. I do know of somewhere in Tennessee, I cannot remember where they're at, and this is bugging me. I need to go back and research it. Changed teacher out for military. There was a husband and wife who had been in the Army, and between them had never made more than $50,000 with their combined income. When they told me this, like, hurts my feelings, okay? No matter what people think, our military, like most of the people, do not get paid what they are worth to be able to put their life on the line. So, made no more than $50,000 a year. They got into real estate. Their first year in real estate, they made $1.5 million. And I had interviewed them for something, and we went through a lot of it. And it really just came down to some of the discipline and systems they had learned in the military. They went, I just got to get up and do the hard thing every day. I mean, how is it any harder to pick up the phone or go have open houses or go talk to people than it is to go through, any of the regular training and PT and all the stuff that you got to do in the military? Both of them had been deployed before, so they had been overseas and they had faced crazy situations. And they were like, well, this is nothing. This is people. It's not a life or death situation by any means. So, do y'all like that? Okay. One of my favorite things in the world, and honestly, you could do the same thing with your client. Here's your inciting incident. Why did you decide to make this purchase? What challenges do we have? You got a choice. Here's what happens if you make this choice. Here's what happens if you make this choice. And so on and so on. So, essentially, tell a good story, guys. You need a beginning, you need a middle, you need an end. First act, second act, third act. So whenever you're working on your newsletter, that's what I'm saying. We know our target audience somewhat. At least we've started down that journey. We know the things that they might resonate to. So pick something. What matters to them? Anything. Here's some great things to do this weekend. Here's a great one. I would open this. How do you get, hang on a second, how do I word this? This is where my brain starts going. I'm ad-libbing right here. Here's 5 ways that you can get your 11-year-old picky eater to actually try something other than chicken fingers. You know, if anybody wrote that, I would read that so fast you have no idea. Anybody ever had a picky eater? Oh my God. I'm like, eat something different, but I like Zaxby's. I'm like, you cannot live on Zaxby's alone. Like, this is not what you were, no. So it sounds silly, and you go, well, that's not really about real estate. It doesn't have to be. I think that's where we miss the mark when it comes to any sort of marketing, especially when we work in an industry where it's relationships, is I want them to see me as like their resource, their friend, their buddy, someone who's going through this journey with them, not someone who's like, hey, I'm just going to pop in when you need to buy a house. Cool. Are you going to be around? No, they just, how's it going? How's the family? What's going on? What have you all been up to? Fantastic. By the way, I've got a house down here. If you know anybody that's looking at it, great. Talk to you later. See you in a few months. Hey, we've got this really cool event coming up. I know you've got kids this age. We're doing a drive-in movie thing. We're going to have like candy, cotton candy and popcorn and stuff like that too. And so why don't you guys come? Do you think we should get the bouncy house? You think we're going to have enough young kids? Yeah? Okay, let's go ahead and RSVP you for that so I know how many. And then let's see if our vendor will order it. Okay? It's just about connecting and helping provide something that's actually valuable to them. And you just put it in your newsletter. It's like writing an essay, guys. Sort of. Yeah, sorry about that. That probably wasn't a great example. Here's some ideas, though, at least some formats. We won't be able to go too deep into this because we're about out of time here, but just some things to consider for your newsletter. So biweekly or monthly marketing recaps, that can work based on the type of clients you have. If you work with mostly engineers, guess what they're going to want? Just the facts. Yep, they want numbers. Give it to me in the easiest, most consumable format, and they will think that you have just given them gold. In that same space, there is an agent he's not out of y'all's market center, but he's in y'all's market, who Jessica Borden, I know, has done newsletters for, who does an investor newsletter. And he sends this out directly to his investor group when special stuff comes on the market. And he gets a huge open rate. And I want to say last time I talked to Jessica about it, he sold something like 15 or 20 million from his newsletter this year. So I'm just saying he knows his audience. What do they want? They're investors, cash investors. They want a good deal that fits within certain metrics. Cool. If they are, they're like, cool, I'll buy it. Let's go. Let's write up an offer today. That's the way that they are. Lifestyle, so this kind of be like being the local expert. I'm a big fan of this idea, and this is, you should own your backyard, and that's just my opinion in real estate. Wherever you live, wherever you're at, that is your geographic farm. You're their neighborhood expert, and you exploit the heck out of that. You know everything about what's going on. If they put a new sign at the end of the street, guess what? You knew it 6 months before it happened, okay? A new construction project's going on, any of that kind of stuff. Those things are valuable because local news stinks these days. And so I would rather get my local news from a great local realtor than somebody else. So that's just what I'm saying. I never know what's going on in East Cobb. There's probably places I could get that news from, but storytellers, some people have crazy adventures that happen. They went on a showing and things went sideways, or they went on a crazy property. Don't violate any rules in this, giving details about specific locations and stuff, but there was my former team leader back when she was an agent. She tells this story about how she pulled her gun at a showing one time because she opened a closet and they had it rigged up in such a way to where a clown came jumping down out of it, and it came up in her face and scared her so bad she pulled her gun on it. She pulled her gun on a clown and showing a house. Her client was with her, but it was a vacant property, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with going strapped at a vacant property. I'm just saying. And so that would have been a fun story to tell, right? Like, oh my gosh, she always gets up to the funniest things. I want to know about them. This or that, that's another one some people like playing, is like, do you like this kitchen or that kitchen more? People like sharing their opinions. Okay, that one works pretty well on social media as well. So like Facebook. Stay away from AI images, in my opinion, because they're kind of overdone right now. So it's kind of cheesy. I'm not saying, anyway, I have different opinions on that. We're not going to talk about it. It's fine. Giveaways based on interests. Let's say, I don't know, I'll use an Alabama example here because the second most popular religion is football. The what? Toilet paper? The what? For Alabama? What about toilet paper for Alabama? Okay. Okay. Shut up. Hey, I grew up in Alabama. I have not once in my life seen an outhouse except when I was in Boy Scouts. Thank you very much. And it was called a latrine. I don't know if that makes it any better. Um, so let's just say in Alabama, okay, we have a big bowl game every year. They do the Iron Bowl, Alabama Auburn. Let's say you had tickets for it. If you know people in your database who are big Alabama or Auburn fans doing a giveaway for tickets to the game, you don't think people would be all over that? Heck yeah, they would. Whatever those high value sort of things are, turn them into a contest, something fun. People will open that. I know in Atlanta, several of the real estate teams do that with Braves tickets for like some of the bigger games, and maybe somebody they know or a vendor they know or someone in their family has like box seats and that are in like a really good location, and they kind of give those away as a giveaway. My gosh, the amount of extra leads they get from that kind of stuff if you do it right, 100%. I talked about the investor picks. Wild properties, I think that's another fun one, is when crazy crap comes on the market, you just talk about it. I mentioned Zillow Gone Wild. Anybody ever follow that Facebook page or Instagram account? It is bananas, some of the stuff. I'm like, this is a real property? Like, we're talking carpet on the walls in some houses, okay? I didn't even know that was a thing. People like looking at that stuff. They think it's funny. Okay, they think it's fun, if nothing else. Now, there was a castle in northeast Georgia that literally, I was like, you know what? Maybe we don't need to live in Atlanta anymore, and I'm willing to drive 2 hours to be able to live in a castle. It was only like $450,000 too, which shocked me. It was in the middle of nowhere. I have no idea. Like, I've never even heard of this place. So, anyway. Special interests, other good things, food, sports, stuff like that as well. So, any questions or thoughts on this? I know this particular piece is more of an info dump. Just remember, it doesn't have to all be about real estate. They just need to remember that you are in real estate. So you need to have something in there, but it doesn't have to be the whole focus. There was an agent at a market center I was at last week. I get my weeks run together sometimes last week, and she has 2 different types of client events she runs. One is for families with small kids, and one is for adults. And she got done. We went through this exercise that we did with the Timothy as part of their team meeting, and she was like, I had a really big aha. And I was like, what's that? And she's like, I send my newsletter to everybody. And I was like, really? And she's like, yeah, it's the same content for both groups. But now I'm thinking maybe I need to create 2 newsletters, one for the people with small kids. I may have said small families. I meant small kids. And then one of them for adults. And I was like, why? She's like, yeah, because one of them's like wine and cheese events and stuff we do. The other one's like stuff at the park with like fun things for the kids. And I was like, boom, there you go. Yeah, we won't go through all the different formats, newsletter formats. We don't have enough time to do that. We're not going to be able to write a newsletter today either. Oh, some small things to help as far as I'm just going to give you guys some writing tips in general here. Microsoft Word is what I do most of my writing in. I know I'm like super old school in that, but Word has pretty good grammar and spelling check. However, since we've gone into this whole AI phase, it's gotten worse. So Word doesn't work as good as it used to. You may want to look at it some different ways as well. Pro Writer Aid is one of the platforms I use. It's kind of like Grammarly on steroids. I like it. It is not cheap. You can get a lifetime subscription, I think, for $400, but it is not cheap. But if you're going to get into like more serious writing or do this on a regular basis, it may be something to look at. It also does critiques, like it'll read your document and pull out the most important piece of information and tell you what it's about. So that's always kind of nice and give you suggestions. ChatGPT, if anybody's not familiar, yeah, you probably are at this point. I hate it. It's okay. It's because I'm a writer. ChatGPT is the large language model that's so popular. You basically go to the website, you say, I need it to talk about this, and it'll write it for you. Do not use something like ChatGPT and then just auto-publish on your whatever it is, okay? Use it for generating ideas and getting you started, but you got to go back and edit and everything. It is literally a word slot machine. Okay, every time you pull it, you're going to get a different result. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. And every time that you pull it, you basically use up 18 ounces of water cooling some machine to be able to keep it going. So just be aware of that. There is an environmental impact to it, but anyway, just saying. It also was trained on a bunch of writers like me, and that's kind of, I didn't give them any permission. Text to voice, I think, is a big one, though. This is one of the ones that I use for my writing. And so I will write something, I will edit it, and then I will have it read it back to me. Because as human beings, we do this neat little thing where when we read something, we replace words by accident, because we know what it's supposed to mean, but just because that's what it's supposed to mean doesn't mean it is what it means. Does that make sense? It won't catch word usage because of the fact that, you know, if like sale and sale spelled differently mean two different things, but they're pronounced the same. You won't catch that kind of stuff, but you will catch some of your mistakes for sure by doing that. Word actually has a built-in one, but there are some other great ones out there, like Natural Reader is one I use on my phone. So actually, I'll write and edit, I'll move it to my cloud, and I'll load it in Natural Reader, and I'll listen to it as I drive to work. So that's one of my things. Now, I can't take any notes while I'm driving, but I can at least go, yeah, I need to go back and edit that a couple more times. Cool. All right, so what did we learn? I hope we learned something. Do we feel like we got anything out of this? I know we did a lot in this. So talked about the basics of what you can use your newsletter for. What's a Timothy? How do you use them? Newsletter formats, we went into that a little bit. 5 commandments of storytelling. And we didn't get to actually make something live, but that's okay. So let's get some ahas. What'd you learn? What'd you learn? Yeah.
It was a really useful exercise to just sit and think through what's important to these people, how they feel about what they need the most besides real estate.
Mm-hmm.
It really helps to be empathy.
100%. If you don't know what they want or what they need, you can't get any traction. Like, especially in marketing, like, because people are seeing you through this tiny little window. When you're meeting people face to face, we get a lot of social cues and body language and that kind of stuff. None of that works on text only. When you're looking at words, like, it just doesn't work the same. So you have to speak their language, so to speak, and everybody has a slightly different language. What other ahas? Yes, sir. Oh, there you go. So we've got a Melissa and a Cheryl now. Anybody, you know? Okay. Okay. Yeah. That's important. Knowing what's important.
I am thinking of going through my database and putting in generations, like Gen X, Gen Z.
Oh, yep. And we all get communicated to, and we are easily communicated with. I was at somebody else's house recently. Where was I? I was at my mother-in-law's house, and she had it like on Investigation Discovery or something like that. We have no regular TV channels in our house. Like, we're all streaming services, so we don't watch any normal ones. She's watching that, and the commercials that came up, I was like, I know what age group this is for, because those are the people who are going to be watching that. So it's, you know, it's a lot about like, do you need to know how to get your insulin for cheaper, or, you know, here's whatever thing about. You're welcome. It's my pleasure. And so on and so on. So yeah, knowing generations helps. Also for the distribution channel, like if you're trying to reach a Gen Z, you're not going to be advertising on Investigation Discovery. Like I don't think they know what that is. It's one of those channels one of those off channels that shows like true crime stuff is basically what it is. So yeah, it's kind of like in that same vein as like Lifetime and some of the others, like age group wise. And so, although I'm not a marketing expert in that, but I do think that's important. Because some generations feel better with phone calls than text messages. Like that's another thing. So do me a favor, guys. We all scan that. Well, let us know what you think about it. And for anyone who does, I'm going to also send you a digital copy of the handout for today. So if you want to reuse it, go through the exercise again, come up with some of your own questions. I mean, it doesn't have to just be, I do not have a PhD in this. I don't know. I've been in real estate 12 years. Does that count as a PhD? I don't think they count that as formal education, but I would say that these are great questions to start from. You could always create some new ones as well that are important to your business. And really that's what it comes down to. What is important to your business?